Namaste, everyone. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we're gathered here today, the Gimoi Wallabilla Yidinji people and the Irukandji people, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. And I'd also like to extend my sincere thanks to Rotary Cairns Sunrise for once again having me to talk. I really appreciate all of the support that you've given me and to Friends of Himalayan Children. It's been amazing to have that kind of community backing from everyone here. So thank you, and thank you very much for being here today to be part of this momentous moment for myself. I wanted to also acknowledge the club for giving $10,000 last year to support the children in Batasi village, which is Som's village in Nepal. That was to buy laptops for the kids and also to fund a computer teacher. So you'll see this building here in the background is under construction, and that is your computer lab that these laptops are going to be in. So, I just got goosebumps. So it is happening, it's real. The laptops were purchased last night. I was in touch with Som Tamang, who is one of the first people that Som helped through his work, his volunteering and his charity. And Sujan is now the president of the Batasi school, so amazing journey for him, and he is making things happen. So he's putting your hard-earned to good use and making real change in Batasi village. So I wanted to start by just giving you a personal message from Guillermo Tamang, who is one of the students who's benefiting from your wonderful donation.
Namaste everyone, I'm Guillermo Tamang. I study in grade 10. Thank you, Rotary Cairns Sunrise, to provide laptops. We are excited to get laptops. We hope we can get many advantages from laptops and we can introduce with a modern society from laptops. Thank you everyone.
Did you notice how well dressed she is? Yeah, so the students take enormous pride in their schooling, in their education. It's not like kids here in Australia who could really take or leave school. They want to go every day. They're up at 5 o'clock in the morning getting ready. They put in every effort to do their best at school, and they are doing their best at school. This place is in the middle of nowhere. There's no town, there's no other services, but they get themselves spick and span to school every day because they're so passionate about the opportunity that is provided through education. So now we're going to hear from Fulmaya Tamang. She is Som's sister, and she is one of the reasons that he does what he does. You'll see a slide shortly of her before Som started to help her and after, and it's quite shocking every time I see it. And for me, Fulmaya embodies International Women's Day.
Hey everyone, I'm Fulmaya Tamang from Batasi village. I used to work as a trekking guide for about 5 years. Now I'm working as a pharmacist in Kathmandu. Som did help me a lot to succeed my dreams, and there are so many girls who get help from Som, and they are educated and they succeeded their dreams. I would like to say Happy International Women's Day to you all Cairns people. Thank you so much for your help. I met Kirsty about 6 years ago. I feel really lucky to have a Kirsty for school and for Batasi village because Kirsty is helping so much for us for many years. Kirsty did write a book about Som, and we are really excited to read his story. Thank you so much everyone.
Before I kick things off, I have one last video to play, and this is going to give you a little bit of an overview of what Himalayan Dreams, the story of Som Tamang, is all about.
Hello, my name is Som Tamang. In 2015 earthquake in Nepal, my life turned upside down. That's only part of my story. I would say I'm a simple person, but with a a big vision to really mainly focus on other humans, other people, other beings, and just making sure everyone is okay.
Som is a self-made man who's called Cairns home for more than 20 years. He grew up surrounded by poverty in rural Nepal, and he knew education was a ticket to a better life.
When I went to Kathmandu at age 10, I got taken by some village men, and they promised me the school, but I never seen the school for a long time. So I was just there to help them cook, help them clean their house, wash their clothes.
Som eventually escaped and set about funding the education of his younger siblings and then other village children. Coming to Far North Queensland has allowed Som to change many lives through his charity Friends of Himalayan Children in Cairns, despite a devastating earthquake and now a global pandemic.
Anything is possible with courage and hard work and community support behind it. Kirsty and I have built a strong relationship after the earthquake in 2015, and I look forward to sharing my story with everyone.
So there you go. So where did it all begin? I first met Som in 2015, a couple of days after the devastating earthquake. 9,000 people died in the earthquakes in Nepal, the Anzac Day and another one in May 2015. Som lost his brother in that earthquake and everything that he had helped to build through Friends of Himalayan Children. The school was gone, the children's hostel were gone. Thankfully, none of the children perished in the earthquake. So this is the day I met him. Him showing me in his home the village that he has been so desperately trying to support all these years. And I was at the ABC at the time as a reporter. So I thought, how can I help? The way I could help at the time was continuing to write stories about Som going back and forward to Nepal to offer aid, and enormous support from the Cairns community to help him do that. With donations and with voluntary help. So a couple of people went to Nepal with Som straight after the earthquake and then in the months following. So that was my immediate way of helping. I got to know a little bit more about Som along the way though. And I wasn't just inspired by the work he was doing, but what he'd actually come from. This is Som as a 5-year-old on his first day of school. I think it's quite a shocking image. He's so young and so vulnerable, and he was so passionate about getting an education that his parents couldn't afford. He would walk 2 vertical kilometres down to the next village with berries to sell to raise some money to send him to school. And his mum would sell rakshi, which is like an alcohol, to pay for his uniform to go. This is Fulmaya. So this is the lot of women in Nepal. Has been for centuries. They get married young. Unfortunately, many of them were trafficked to places like India for the sex trade, and they weren't really considered as having any worth apart from the role that they played in farming and family. So Som wanted to change that. He ended up going to Kathmandu, as you heard in the video, and becoming a child slave. He ended up getting caught up in that system, but he eventually escaped, and it was a bit late for his education, so I thought, I'm going to make sure my younger siblings, and particularly Fulmaya, get an education. So the photo on the right is also Fulmaya, so you can see the difference between Som's intervention. In 2016, Som asked me to MC their first International Women's Day event. A fundraiser for the Friends of Himalayan Children, which helped to rebuild the children's hostel. By that time, I was getting pretty hooked on what he was doing, and we started sponsoring our first child over there. This is Janisha Tamang, and she became the first of 3 children that my husband Sean and I sponsor. So Rabina, we also sponsor, and Santali Tamang through Women in Media. Shortly after I made that presentation, it was 2016, I started having my own crisis. I was getting very sick. I hadn't slept for 5 months since taking on the role of Chief of Staff at the ABC, and I basically had to down tools and walk away for a while. I was severely depressed, and about a year later I was diagnosed with PTSD. So I thought that was it. I was finished. I didn't want to be here anymore, and yeah, I didn't know what the future held. During that time off, I thought, well, what can I do? I took a few months to get better, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to go to Nepal. I'm going to walk the walk, and I've talked the talk, now I'm going to walk the walk. So I went and volunteered by myself in Batasi for a month at the end of 2016. And that was life-changing, and I say life-saving for me. It really gave me a sense of purpose again, and it was time to heal and a time to help. So I came back from that with one thought in mind, and that is I want to write Som's story. He's got an incredible story, and I saw firsthand what he was able to do through the work with the kids over there. So I thought I want to be back within 2 years. I didn't know how the book was going to happen, but I thought I've got to do some more interviews and speak to Som's family. So the opportunity came up in 2018 to go back. But the catch was that I had to walk to Everest Base Camp in order to do that and spend time with Som. So we raised money for a library in the village, and during that trip in 2018 I gathered some interviews for the book. Still didn't know what was going to happen, when it was going to happen. So the opportunity finally came in 2020. It takes a lot of work to write a book, so I knew that I would not be able to achieve this unless I actually stepped away from the workforce for a while, and that takes money and saving. So with the support of my wonderful husband, we started saving and set the intention to leave work. Happened to be right in the middle of the global pandemic when I was working for Queensland Health, rolling out communications around coronavirus. So, probably everyone thinks I'm a bit crazy for leaving the workforce at that time. Nice, secure job, important work. That I left at the middle of 2020, and the universe told me it was the right thing to do, because within a few days of me finishing up, I got a letter from the Cairns Regional Council offering me a Regional Arts Development Fund grant to write this book. So I knew I was on the right path. So I began in earnest, thought I was going to be spending my time on Fitzroy Island, having writer's life and having this wonderful journey. I can tell you it's not really like that. It's really hard work. I was often up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning whenever inspiration struck. You'd think, I thought, good, pandemic, great time to write a book. Som is not going to be back and forth to Nepal like he was, but I actually had less access to him because his shop, Himalayan Dreams, had to close during the pandemic for a while. His trekking business take on Nepal had to stop, so he had no income. So he had to go and work. So he started working in residential care. So basically, I never had access to him. I think I saw him about 10 times to actually gather content for the book. So it has been very challenging to get this project happening. I talked to a lot of interesting people along the way. It was through these other interviews that I managed to piece together Som. He's quite a humble person. He won't tell you all of the amazing things, like the fact that he escaped from a tiger attack, that he had a critical head injury as a child. There's all these little tidbits that started emerging. Ended up interviewing Jason Clarke, a Hollywood actor who Som helped guide at the beginning of his career. Malcolm Kennard, an Australian actor whose life he saved up in the Himalayas. Conrad Anker, world-famous mountaineer, who is now helping one of the girls, Som Tamang, become a high-altitude mountaineering guide and hopefully leading people to Everest. And Julius Dreyer, who many of you probably haven't heard of, but he happens to be an internet millionaire, and he was one of the first people Som took to his village, just thinking he was a German backpacker, basically, but he was instrumental in giving Friends of Himalayan Children their first leg up in terms of serious funding. So yeah, it's been a very interesting journey putting this book together. It hasn't just been about interviews with Som, but with volunteers, with people who've spent time in the village. It's got my own story in there as well. So a couple of hurdles along the way for myself. I was expecting to have an operation beginning of last year that was supposed to be keyhole surgery, ended up being open surgery, so it took me out for 6 weeks. Had a limited deadline to write this book with the grant, so therefore took every opportunity I could to write, including at the hairdresser. What's happening with this book now, you might ask? It is a book launch, and it is quite unusual because I don't actually have a book published yet. But nevertheless, I wanted to celebrate this on International Women's Day because everything that Som does is about empowering women. He has saved a whole generation in his village from early marriage and child trafficking, and that is an enormous achievement, and it's worth celebrating. So this book does celebrate that work and what he's been able to achieve, and I really want this book to raise awareness worldwide about what is going on in places like Nepal and have the power of people to ensure that it doesn't keep happening. So just some early feedback I've had on the book, because I have been trying to get it published for some time, and it is very encouraging, but still got a long way to go with trying to get this book published by a traditional publisher. But I will not give up. And I do actually have the book here. It is real. It's definitely real. So I'm super proud of it, and I really can't wait till I can sell it to you. You might be wondering where Som is today. So 4 days ago, he was in hospital. He was struck down, and we still don't know what it is, but it's a blood infection, and he describes it as being the worst pain he's ever been in. And this man has been through a lot, so for him to say that, and he's normally extremely stoic about things, it's pretty serious. Okay, so I was extremely worried about him. He was going to try and be here today. He is out of hospital and hopefully out of the woods, but he woke up with fever again this morning and really in pain, so he's resting at home in bed. I want to say thank you so much to Som for giving me the opportunity to do this and to entrust me with his story. I really want to pay tribute to my husband Sean. He is an amazing support, and I could not do this without him. He let me have the opportunity in the first place and really pushed me to do it. He said, you need to write this book, you need to make this happen, we need to make this happen, basically. And has been there every step of the way, gently knocking on the door when it's sort of 9 o'clock at night and I still haven't downed tools to say, you know, you probably should give it a rest for today. So yeah, he's my champion, and I can't thank him enough for the support that he always gives me. Likewise, the wonderful Susie Cray, my business partner with Emotion Video. She has been a great emotional support and also physically supporting me as well, as she is today. And I couldn't ask for a better person to be going into business with. So thank you again, Susie. And there's quite a few other people to thank. I had some mentorship along the way, so Tara Diversi, ex-publisher Stuart Neal, and several others that have given me support along the way, Kirsten Pills, Stephen Chong, Kia Shori. I also want to acknowledge Rita Zapula. She has been in my corner this whole time, really championing me, and it means a lot. So thank you so much, Rita, and to also the club as well for your continued support of me and Friends of Himalayan Children. I really want to acknowledge the Regional Arts Development Fund and the Cairns Regional Council and the Queensland Government. If I hadn't had this little last push, this little incentive to actually finally commit to doing this, it may not have happened. So it really has helped transfer me from being a journalist to an author. I've learnt so much along the way, so thank you so much for that support. Last but not least, I want to acknowledge the young people of Batassi, who I have watched grow into amazing leaders, many of them young women. So one person can make a huge change in the world, especially if they have the support of the community, and that's something that I hope to do through this book. So if anyone has been able to break the bias, it is Som, and that is today's International Women's Day theme. So thank you once again for having me today, and enjoy the book when it comes out.